I'm going to tell you a story, and at the end, I'll ask you a question. Your answer will reveal something about you that you might not want to know. Pay close attention, because this test was used by forensic psychologists to identify a very specific type of person. A woman is at her own mother's funeral. She's devastated, of course, but during the ceremony, she notices a man she's never seen before. He's handsome, elegant, and seems genuinely sad about her mother's death. The woman becomes hypnotized by him. She feels an instant connection, something she's never felt for anyone. But before she could approach him and ask his name, he disappears. She searches everywhere, asks family members, but no one knows who he is or where he came from. The woman goes home obsessed. She can't stop thinking about him. Days pass, weeks, and she can't find him anywhere. Then, a week later, she kills her own sister. The question is simple. Why did she do it? Think about your answer before continuing, because what you answered reveals much more about you than you realize. Most people answer things like, maybe the sister was having an affair with a mysterious man, or maybe there was an inheritance involved, or old jealousy between the two. These answers are normal. They follow an emotional logic that anyone can understand. Anger, betrayal, envy, human feelings. But there's one answer that less than 1% of people give, and that answer concerns psychologists around the world. The answer is, she killed her sister because she hoped the mysterious man would show up at the funeral again. If you thought of that, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a psychopath, but it means your mind works differently from most people. You were able to think in a purely strategic way without letting emotion interfere with reasoning. You saw the situation as a problem to be solved, not as a human tragedy. This test became famous on the internet as the psychopath test. But the truth is more complex than that. It was developed to study thought patterns, not to diagnose anyone. What it actually measures is something called cognitive coldness. Cognitive coldness is the ability to analyze emotional situations without being affected by them. It's not necessarily bad. Surgeons need this. Hostage negotiators need this. Criminal defense lawyers need this. But when this coldness combines with other traits like lack of empathy and manipulation, that's when we have a problem. There are 3 traits that form what psychologists call the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. And the scariest part is that most people with these traits aren't in prisons or psychiatric hospitals. They're at your workplace, in your family, maybe even in your circle of friends. A study from Oxford University found that professions like CEO, lawyer, and surgeon have a higher concentration of people with dark triad traits. This doesn't mean every CEO is a psychopath, of course. It means that certain environments attract and reward certain personality types. But let's go back to the test, because it reveals something even more interesting about how our minds work. When you heard the story of the woman at the funeral, your brain automatically tried to fill in the gaps. You created motivations, emotions, backstories for the characters. This is called theory of mind, and it's what allows us to understand other people. Most of us assume others think like we do. If I would get angry if my sister betrayed me, then the woman in the story probably got angry too. We project our own emotions onto others, and this usually works well. But people with psychopathic traits don't make this projection the same way. They analyze behavior, not emotion. They see patterns, not feelings. For them, the logical answer is obvious. If the man appeared at a funeral, the way to see him again is to create another funeral. What's disturbing about this logic is that it's technically correct. If you remove emotion from the equation, it's a valid deduction. And that's exactly what makes people with these traits so dangerous. They operate on a different logical system than ours. Now, I need to tell you the truth about this test. It was never actually scientifically validated as a way to identify psychopaths. It went viral on the internet, but researchers never confirmed that the funeral answer actually indicates psychopathy. In fact, studies showed that many perfectly normal people arrive at this answer, especially if they've been exposed to lots of thriller movies or mystery books. But this doesn't mean the test is useless. It reveals something important about how we process moral information. Philosopher Joshua Green studied how our brains make ethical decisions. He discovered that we have two different systems. One is fast, emotional, instinctive. It's the system that makes you feel disgust when you imagine killing someone. The other is slow, rational, calculating. It's the system that allows you to consider the possibility coldly. Normal people mainly use the first system in moral situations. Disgust, fear, empathy guide their decisions before reason has time to intervene. But people with dark triad traits, the emotional system simply doesn't fire with the same intensity. This explains why manipulators are so efficient. They can do things that normal people couldn't even consider. Not because they're smarter, but because they don't have the emotional brake that stops the rest of us. And here's the part nobody talks about regarding this test. Your answer can change depending on your emotional state at the moment. If you're stressed, tired, or emotionally drained, you're more likely to use the rational system instead of the emotional one. Your brain simply doesn't have the energy to process the emotional weight of the story. So it jumps straight to logic. This means we're all capable of thinking like a psychopath, under certain circumstances. The difference is that for most of us, this is temporary. For people with dark triad traits, it's the default mode. So what do you do with this information? First, don't panic if you thought of the funeral answer. As I said, many normal people reach this conclusion, especially creative, analytical people or those who consume a lot of thriller content. A single test doesn't define your personality. Second, use this knowledge to protect yourself. Now you know that there are people who process the world in a fundamentally different way than you do. People who can calculate coldly while you're reacting emotionally. Recognizing this is the first step to not being manipulated. And third, pay attention not to what people say, but to how they react to emotional situations. People with dark triad traits often mimic emotions they don't feel, but there are subtle signs. Emotional responses that seem rehearsed, lack of genuine reaction to sad news, ability to change the subject quickly after something disturbing. The funeral test won't tell you who's a psychopath, but understanding how it works will give you a window into something much more important: the way different minds process the same world. And maybe the most disturbing question isn't why the woman killed her sister, but why some of us can perfectly understand her logic.